If setting boundaries makes your body feel anxious, guilty, or unsafe, this episode is for you. Hey, I'm Aurélie Zephyr, a licensed therapist, and this is Wapkute Mapkutil. You are listening to me, I am listening to you. Today we are talking about boundaries and why boundaries can trigger survival mode in the nervous system. So in episode 9, we talked about the nervous system, how trauma lives in the body, how our system gets stuck on high alert, and why healing can just be creating new experiences without awareness. And today, I want to continue that conversation, but I want to bring it into something very real, very daily, and honestly, something I personally struggle with. Boundaries. Because boundaries are one of those topics that people talk about all the time, right? We hear set boundaries like it's easy, like it's just one sentence and boom, you're free. But for some of us, the moment we try to set a boundary, our whole body reacts. We freeze, we overthink, we feel guilty, we panic, we want to avoid, we want to disappear. And that's not because we don't know boundaries are important. It's because boundaries can trigger the nervous system. So what inspired this episode is I was listening to a friend of mine's podcast called The Mediocre Black Woman. And I want you guys to check it out. She has really great content. So in that episode of hers, she made a meditation. And she explained why she came up with the meditation was to help her soothe her body after having to set a boundary with someone earlier. And she went on and explained that it's because setting the boundary activated her survival response. And while I was listening, it clicked for me. Like, wow, this is actually what happens to me too. I struggle with boundaries. And not in the sense that I don't understand them, but I understand them. I actually teach them as a therapist, but when it's time to actually set them, it gets very, very difficult. So let's talk about it. Boundaries are basically the limits we set to protect our time, our energy, our emotional space, our body, our mental health, and our relationships. Boundaries tell people this is what I'm okay with and this is what I'm not okay with. They help relationships stay healthy. Because without boundaries, what ends up happening is resentment builds, confusion builds, people overstep, you feel drained, and you start abandoning yourself to keep the peace. Boundaries aren't about controlling people. Boundaries are about protecting you. And this is the part that I really want you to hear. Boundaries can feel hard, not because you're weak, but because your nervous system may have learned that if you speak up, I'll lose connection. If you say no, I'll be punished. If I express myself, I'll be seen as disrespectful. If I protect myself, I'll be rejected. So even if you logically know setting a boundary is healthy, your body might feel like it's danger. And that's the nervous system. It's scanning for threat. It's not asking if setting a boundary is mature. It's asking, Will we be safe if we do this, right? And that's why boundaries can activate the fight response, flight, freeze, fawn, or you even shut down. I also want to bring a cultural aspect into this. In Haitian culture, boundaries, especially between children and adults, can be very blurred. And I'm not saying community is bad. We love community. We need community. A lot of us grew up in environments where everybody knows everybody, kids play together, neighbors talk, people share food, people check on each other. And community is beautiful, can be beautiful, but sometimes community can cross into overstepping. Sometimes a child trying to set a boundary with an adult is seen as disrespectful. Sometimes parents allow older adults to discipline their child even when that adult doesn't share the same values. And as a kid, that can teach you I don't have a voice, I can't say no, I should stay quiet. Being silent is safer. And I've seen, and sometimes it also happens in school, sometimes speaking up is framed as disrespect. So you grow up learning boundaries are dangerous. And if you learn that early, your nervous system is not going to magically feel calm as an adult just because you were to set a boundary now. As a therapist, for me, setting boundaries show up all the time because the therapeutic relationship needs to be clear, it needs to be safe, it needs to have structure. I'm the type of therapist who allow clients to show up as they are. I want them to feel safe, to be vulnerable, honest, and human. But sometimes, depending on what boundaries met in their past, boundaries can feel confusing. Some clients grew up with blurred lines. Maybe they were parentified, maybe parent acted like friends, maybe there was no structure, maybe love came with guilt or obligation. So sometimes in therapy, boundaries show up as the professional line being crossed. And when that happens, I have to address it, not to shame them, but because it's part of healing. Sometimes clients have never experienced a healthy boundary until they enter the therapeutic space, and that's where they learn. But I'm not gonna lie, it can be uncomfortable because there's a balance. I'm holding the client's emotion, I'm holding their vulnerability, and I'm also saying, this is the boundary. And sometimes boundaries trigger people. Sometimes it brings up anger, sometimes backlash, sometimes fear, sometimes abandonment feelings. Even cancellation policies can be a boundary. Even reminders about time, about availability, about expectation. It can be boundaries too. And as a therapist, part of the work is modeling what healthy boundaries look like while holding space for the emotional response. Now, in my personal life, setting boundaries is even harder because at a young age, I've learned that it is dangerous. And what I've noticed, to protect myself, I tend to scan people. I don't mean in a judgmental way, but I can sense early on, does this person respect boundaries? Do they overstep? Do they take too much? Do they know how to hear no? And when I sense that someone might not have boundaries, I do something that now I'm realizing more and more. I stay on the surface. I separate myself. I don't get too close. I don't get close at all because unconsciously my body is preparing to avoid the moment where I will need to set a boundary. That's how much my nervous system doesn't like it. Sometimes, instead of communicating, I detach, I distance myself, I act like nothing happened, not because I don't care, but because my nervous system is trying to protect me from discomfort. But here's the truth. That doesn't create healthy relationships because I don't want someone thinking we are close and I'm not fully present. I want to be honest. I want to be all in. And boundaries are what make that possible. Boundaries protect connection and it doesn't wound it. So here's what I've been learning. I've been learning that setting boundaries might activate my nervous system, right? My body might fire up, my heart might race, my chest might tighten, my mind might spiral, I might feel guilty, but also healing is not forcing myself to it with no support. Healing is being able to say, this is hard for me. My nervous system is activated and I can still choose myself. And after I set a boundary, I soothe myself. That's the part a lot of people don't talk about. They don't tell you, they just tell you set boundaries, but nobody tells you take care of your nervous system after. And that's where the tools come in. So let me share a few tools you can use after setting a boundary, especially if your body feels activated. Grounding. Bring your senses to the present. List 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Because grounding brings your nervous system back to the here and now. Engage in slow breathing, especially long exhales. Inhale and longer exhale tells your body we are safe now. You can engage in meditation or mindfulness. It's not to suppress your thoughts, but to observe them, to let them come and go without engaging. You also have to name what you're feeling. Say it out loud. I feel anxious. I feel guilty. I feel scared. I feel triggered. Because emotions that are not named, they don't go away. They don't disappear. They get stored in your body. This is a big one. Compassion. Talk to yourself gently. Of course, this is hard. Of course, my body reacted. I am learning. I am safe. I am allowed to protect myself. So if boundaries are hard for you, I want you to know you're not broken. You're not weak. Your nervous system may have learned that boundaries were unsafe. But now you're learning something new. That you can set a boundary and still be okay. That you can disappoint someone and still be safe. That you can protect yourself and still be loved. And that's healing. Before we close, I want to share something I'm really, really excited about. I'm officially building Lakai Within. It is a healing space created for us, a space where we can slow down, reflect, reconnect with ourselves, and feel supported in community. So if you have been craving a space that feels grounding, safe, and culturally affirming, Lakai Within is for you. You will find more detail in the show notes. Okay, I would love to hear from you. What is one boundary you're trying to practice this year? What comes up in your body when you try to set it? You can share your reflection with me by commenting, messaging me, or emailing me. I would truly love to hear it. Because we are not just honoring strength, we are making room for regulation, rest, and collective healing too. Thanks for being here and listening. Thank you for tuning in to Wapkutim Mapkutil. If this episode resonated, subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need it. And remember, keep prioritizing yourself, keep learning, and let's heal, grow, and thrive together.